So there is actually the distance doesn't matter, which people don't understand. People directly want to go for the Ironman or the full marathon, and then they want to post on the social media. That is one huge factor that plays in their mind always. And during a race, this is one huge thing that plays in many people's minds that what would I post the social media? My race is not going well today.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Hero's Journey webinar. I'm Kiva, and it's really lovely to have you all here with us today. Please feel free to use the chat box and let us know where you're joining us from. I'm joining from India, and we have our host, lovely host Avril, who's also in India, in Bangalore, and our guest for today, Raghul. Before I introduce you all to Raghul and we get started with the webinar, we'll just wait for a couple of minutes for everybody else to join in. So yes, just use the chat box and do let us know where you're joining us from. Amazing. So welcome everybody. And before I hand over and invite Avril to take over, I'm going to just take a minute to introduce our guest today, Raghul, for all of you. Raghul is an extraordinary athlete. He has achieved an incredible milestone by completing 10 Ironman events. Making history for India, he has secured the 15th rank in his age category during an event in South Africa, becoming the country's first individual to qualify for the Ironman World Championship. With over 7 years of experience mentoring over 500 athletes in triathlon and running, what fuels his inspiration and unwavering determination? We are so thrilled, Raghul. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to invite Avril, the host of the webinar series, to kindly take over and we can get started.
Thank you so much, Kiva, and thank you to everyone who's joined in from all over the world. Thank you for taking the time to be with us on the Hero's Journey, the podcast on Kocharya that we really love to share with all of you. And Vinita said those medals are making me so overwhelmed. You're not the only one. Even I'm completely overwhelmed. I feel like I'm out of my element. I've never seen so many medals one by one person. So Raghul, you are kind of shattering records here in terms of your medals. I'm not going to say anything, more than what has been said, because your achievements are indisputable. What you've done, in terms of being a triathlete is really, really, really commendable. I just want to start by asking you, you were in software development. You were a software engineer, right?
Yes.
Okay. What made you shift? What was that moment that made you shift from that career into dedicating your life to athletics and coaching?
Hi all. I'm from Chennai, India. It's nice to see you all from different parts of the world. Coming back to your question, so I was in the software engineering, and actually I was a marine engineer. I was working on board ships, and then I quit my sailing job. I did not like it because I did not really belong in it. And then I was working as a software engineer in two well-known companies. And then after a 3.5 years, during those three and a half years, I was actually not so happy with my job. I mean, the satisfaction that I would get every day after the work, it was not much actually. To be very honest, I was working a lot, but then I was not really happy with the way in which I was working, or way in which the progress was going on, or where I would be in the future as a software engineer. Those things kept running in my mind, and then I was not really happy with it. But then in parallel, from 2012, I started with the sport as a triathlete. And then for 3.5 years, I was doing really well in triathlon in my hometown and also in India at that time. So it was a nice opportunity, and then a lot of people in Chennai started following my journey, and then a lot of people who started with running wanted to go as a triathlete, wanted to upgrade themselves as a triathlete from a runner or from a cyclist or from a swimmer, and then they wanted to do triathlons like I was doing. And then there was hardly anyone to guide me when I started. So there was actually no one here as a triathlete when I started. So I was uh, doing it all by myself. I did not know I did not know exactly how to do things, but then I got a good exposure after traveling to a few countries and participating in a few triathlons. After which I decided that so many people are there here in my hometown, so which would be a nice opportunity for them to upgrade themselves from a runner or a cyclist to a triathlete, for which I would be able to help actually. And then I started helping for a few people for actually no charges. I started doing it for free. I mean, I was like happy to help someone to become an athlete at all. And then slowly it became a big group, and then I decided that I would rather do this, which gave me a lot of happiness in that is being a sportsman and coaching a lot of people. So I one fine day I decided to quit my job. I did not even want to go, but then I took a month of notice, and then I quit my job in the last software company, which was in the year 2015 or by the end of 2015. So the coaching as such I started for free was from 2014, and then from 2015, end of 2015, I started earning out of it. And then I gathered a lot of people around. Within a few weeks, I gathered around 50 people for people training under me. So it has always been an enjoying job, where the first 2 3 jobs that I did, I was not really happy. I was not satisfied with the way in which my my job was going on. But then didn't ever feel like a job, so that's what I was happy about. So I never feel like I'm working even a single day. And also I've traveled to so many countries through this, so I'm really happy overall.
Thank you, Raghul, for your, for explaining that so well. Uh, as I was listening to you, what was coming to mind is that your passion for being a triathlete, for the three different disciplines as a triathlete, your passion for it uh, far, outweighed, a monetary job where you were just going to work because you needed to. I mean, because you needed that paycheck, because it wasn't really fulfilling you in any kind of way. You said that you didn't like the job much, and also it takes a lot of gumption. It takes a lot of strength and a lot of security as yourself, being very secure as you as an being you as an athlete, to actually embrace people, because you said you liked coaching people, you liked helping people, and you were doing it for free. And that comes with a lot of self assurance, right? You have to be very sure of yourself, believe in yourself, because athletics is a very competitive space to be in,
Yeah.
and you know that better than me. I don't need to tell you that. So there's a lot of insecurity also around it, right? I mean, in terms of records, in terms of medals. And so what made you like, how does that not interfere with your mindset in terms of helping other people? Because they could do extremely well, and maybe they could bump you off the first spot. You know what I'm saying? There's always that could happen, right? So
Yeah, so
yeah.
I understand your question. Actually, the insecurity that comes from a person who's faster than me, while after I start training them, actually, uh, this is something different. So whenever I coach someone, and then they achieve whatever they wanted to achieve. It's not like they achieved something like a first rank or more than me. I'm just talking about their target, their own target, or the target that I set. So I have never felt happier. For myself. So this I realized whenever I was in a finish line waiting for my athletes. So when I did not participate in an event, I go to and when I went to the finish line waiting for my athletes and some of my athletes in a ceremony, something like an award ceremony. So I can give you so many examples when they I did not participate in a race in Goa, 70.3 Ironman, which is a half Ironman, which was in the year 2019. And 8 of my athletes were there in the event, and 4 of them actually qualified for the World Championship, half Ironman World Championship in 2019. So actually, I did not participate, but then the amount of shouting that I did that day, the joy and yelling after all the during the award ceremony, because one of them came second in the age category for in our age category, and 4 of them, including herself, 4 of them won the qualifying slot for the half Iron World Championship, which was actually huge for me. So I actually did not qualify for half Iron World Championship before that, so that they actually qualified before me. So I did not even feel bad about it. I mean, in fact, I was jumping with joy, and everyone was looking at me in a different way because I was jumping too much that day. And to answer to the other part, there are actually 3 people whom I'm training who are faster than me. So they started behind me, they went up ahead of me. Actually, that's a huge success for me as a coach, because if I always were training people to reach only a point where they are below me or slower than me, then actually I would not be a successful coach, or I cannot actually proudly say that I coach so many people again and again. But also I can add to that saying that there are people faster than me. I coach people who became faster than me after training under me. So it's actually something huge for me. And in fact, the person, one of them is a 50-year-old man. So he has trained so hard that he became faster than me also. So I mean, it's always a success for me when I add this uh, to my resume wherever I talk about my coaching, where 3 people are faster than me, and there are 4 half Ironman World Championship qualifiers before I qualified. um, so we have to qualify every year. So in that year, I actually did not qualify at all. I did not even participate in any half Ironman, but they participated and they qualified also. So it has always been something that I mean, when my athletes are participating, I never think about me. So I think about their success. So
Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you for answering that so well. So basically, what I'm getting from you is it's your way of giving back to people and giving back to the sport, right? In
Yeah,
a way.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So my next question is, how do you infuse, or how do you, bring into the picture your own experiences and learning, having participated in Ironman? How do you bring those experiences into real life in terms of self-coaching yourself, just through life in general, not really the sport?
Okay. Ironman is a sport where there is a huge amount of patience required, because it's a very long sport, like the distances, right? So when you think about that kind of a huge distance, automatically we start building some amount of patience.
Yes.
And always Ironman. There are so many Ironman athletes you would see, they start out really fast, and then they end up on the second half being very slow, or walking in the race, or not able to continue at all. So it's a totally more than a physical. It's actually the patience which comes from the mind. So it's a mental game, totally.
Yes.
So that has really given me a great amount of patience. Usually, I mean, before 2012, or before I became a triathlete, where I used to react quickly for anything and everything. But my reaction went down. I become calmer. I would say that is something that any Ironman athlete would relate to. I think yeah. So that's one huge thing I'd be able to give you like quickly. Maybe there are so many other things that I've got, but I'm not able to bring it up.
No problem. I have noticed that you're very calm. I've been interacting with you over the last 1 month off and on. Even when you were in Finland, and you're very calm, very composed. You don't really. You speak really very very to the point. You don't really talk a lot, but whatever you say has impact. I mean, the little that we've interacted, I've noticed that you have a lot of mental balance. Um, would you also think that and so you said, like you rightly said, it's a mental game, and
Yeah.
that's kind of helped you to not to react so much in life. um, do you think also it has something to do with resilience? I'm just asking.
Yeah, everything is it's like all these things are a part of the sport
Yeah,
and the sports person involved, right? So it's like there are a few things like perseverance, determination, patience, resilience.
yeah,
All these are qualities that an endurance athlete would build, including a marathoner or a long distance triathlete. All these are qualities. You can keep on naming all those
yes.
qualities, and definitely, yeah, these are all a part of the endurance athlete.
Just curious, as you were, just a question that came up, all of a sudden in my mind. What's really going through your mind during the last 1/3 of the race? The race is going to get over.
Yeah.
Like adrenaline could have taken over. So what's really happening in the mind of, in your mind? Let's say in your mind, when you knew that you could win the race, but the race is still not over, and that last 1/3, I'm imagining that you might have to push yourself really hard to finish, because like you said, it's a really long race. So can you share with us what's happening in your mind? What's the mental game you're playing?
Um, so in a triathlon, in an Ironman, it's mostly the nutrition. That's where people go wrong. So I always keep thinking about my nutrition. Nutrition is where uh, generally Ironman athletes make a mistake, and once you make a nutrition mistake, your race is almost over. Or I mean, your target is not going to be anywhere near to you're not going to achieve that. So I'm always thinking about what am I eating next, what am I drinking next. It's like every 1 kilometer, every 1 to 2 kilometer, I'm always thinking about what I'm eating. That's one major thing that keeps running in my mind. And the last 1/3 of the race is the marathon, so it's like 42 kilometer of running. After you cycle 180 kilometer of cycling, and then you swim actually first for 3.8 kilometer, and then you cycle 180 kilometers. So the last third of the race is the 42 kilometer running. So once you start running, you think about running fast, but then after you finish the first or the second kilometer, you know that you might be able to hold that pace or not. And then that is something that keeps on running in my mind. And then the nutrition. So running is mainly based on Coca-Cola. So this is something that people find it difficult to believe in, but Coca-Cola
Yeah,
is huge amount of sugar. It's really unhealthy when you drink it the other days, or when you're not training.
yeah,
But when in a race, Coca-Cola is life. So Coke, and then the salt and the water, and then the energy gels that we get on the aid station. So this is one major part of my thought. And then the other things that I think about is the distance remaining, the goal that I am achieving today. If I am on my target, I'm thinking about the finish line, visualizing the finish line maybe every few minutes. I'm visualizing the finish line, thinking how good of a celebration that's going to be for me if I achieve the target. And then yeah, so that's one thing that will help you keep going. Actually, you might want to run better, or it'll keep you running if you visualize the finish line celebration. And then a lot of other things keep on going. I mean, you think about what your coach would be shouting at you right now if if you are doing it right or not. I have my coach in South Africa, so I visualize my coach yelling at me or talking to me, or also I talk to myself. I mean, the thoughts keep going random.
Yeah. So as you're speaking, I'm noticing a couple of things. I'm noticing there's a little bit of self-coaching happening. There's a lot of mind, like visualizations, like people do visualizations, imagining themselves winning, getting to that goal. So you're already kind of playing it in your mind, like as though it's a reality and it's already happened. So you're using like a couple of tactics. Like when you said nutrition and Coca-Cola in the same sentence, I think a lot of people in the chat are kind of, what? But I totally understand, because your muscle needs glucose immediately. So it
Yeah.
needs it
Is the
needs
sugar spike?
it's a sugar spike, absolutely. So I mean, it's not like you're going to store any of that and it's going to land up in your body. I mean, you're going to be burning that right off the bat, right? So I know I'm a little bit well versed with nutrition, so I totally understand where you're coming from, and Coca-Cola or Pepsi or whatever will do the trick there. So whatever works, right, to get you into the game. So my next question is, having qualified for Ironman and the World Championship, what insights do you offer to budding athletes on the importance of having passion and purpose to reach such a level? Because it's not just about winning, right? I mean, nowadays it goes beyond that. So do you advise athletes about something beyond just winning, as to how it fits in with their passion and purpose?
So I'll talk about the local athletes. I'll talk about the Indian athletes and triathletes I see often. So the common thought, even if you include people from outside of India, so the common thought would be to go longer,
Yeah.
rather than achieving a target in terms of speed. Going longer is not going to help them become faster. But once you get faster, you can increase distance. This is one thing that budding triathletes and athletes miss, and this is the major part. The reason why they miss this conveniently is because it's difficult to increase the speed and intensity, but it is rather easy to increase the distance. But when you increase the distance, you are not going to be successful. Rather, you're going to always be on the lower level of your own capability. But your capability might not be that level if you go through the shorter distance initially, and then go to middle distance later, and then go to the higher distance step by step. So I started as a triathlete where the distance was very short. I mean, like 750 meters of swimming, and then 20 kilometers of cycling, and then 5 kilometers of running. This is the shortest distance of triathlon. So this is where I started, and then I went to the next level of 1.5 kilometers swimming and 40 kilometers cycling, and then 10 kilometers of running. So this was a step-by-step process for me, which was actually working out well. And then I did a lot of half Ironman, which was 1.9 swim, and then 90 kilometers cycle, and then 21-kilometer running. So in that distance, I gradually helped myself becoming a faster athlete. And then I went to the full Ironman distance, which actually helped me naturally. That is, I built the speed in the shorter distance, and then built my endurance gradually, and then went to the longer distance, and my speed built along with it. Then I could increase my intensity and build more speed on the full Ironman distance further. But the problem with budding athletes, newcomers, they get inspired. Let's say there are people watching this presentation and the talk, and then they think, okay, there is someone Ironman, and then I'm also going to do this tomorrow, or maybe start training tomorrow. So they start directly towards the full Ironman, rather than going through the lower level of the ladder and then climbing up the ladder gradually. I've seen that a lot of time. And then what happens is, in the Ironman, the marathon leg is 42 kilometers of running, which itself is a separate sport. So what they do is they walk the entire marathon. So they walk 42 kilometers, like 6 hours of 7 hours of walking, and then it's not actually triathlon after you start walking. It's like swimming, cycling, and then walking. It's not swimming, cycling, running.
Exactly, yeah.
So this is one or the major thing that I would say. I mean, this is the only thing that comes to my mind immediately. People who directly go to the distance, chase a longer distance rather than going through the intensity and building speed
So
accordingly.
why do you think so why do you think they're rushing? I mean, because if you take up something like the angle that at which I'm approaching this is, if you take up something as ambitious as as a triathlon, I mean, you would have done some due diligence on it. You would have done some inquiry on it, right? So I'm just wondering, why would you want to take the shortest route, in the sense that, is it because the athlete is in a hurry and they want to get to that achievement, or they
See,
haven't really.
the reason is going to be very silly.
Okay, what is the reason?
Yeah, it's going to be very silly. I'll tell you. There are two, three major reasons. One is the ego. That's like, I want to call myself an Ironman. I'm not going to be starting with sprint distance triathlon. This is one thing. That is ego. I am bigger than anyone else. So that is one thing. And but there is one equally good reason, which is the social media. You want to finish Ironman and then post on social media saying I finished Ironman. You don't
Really,
want to.
social media, I
Oh,
would not.
social media is a huge. Social media is something huge. Yeah. How many people do you see having done a triathlon but not posting it on social media?
Well, you have a point there, yeah.
Yeah. So there is one important point that you should notice whenever someone is posting it on a social media. Very simple point. Have you got friends who are in the marathon running? Have you got any friends in social media who runs marathons?
No, not really. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Okay. So there is a simple point that you should notice when they post it on social media. I completed a marathon or I ran a marathon.
Yes,
Okay.
you're right.
Those who did not run a marathon, they will write I completed, I finished.
Yes, you're right.
Those who really ran the marathon,
I
they will
ran.
be very fluent about it.
Yes.
So when I post something about my sport, I say I ran it. I don't say I finished it. I don't say I completed it. Those who walked in a marathon, they are not ready for the distance.
Got it.
They are not ready for the distance. They should rather do the 21 kilometer, and 21 kilometers is a half marathon, which is actually not a short distance. Half marathon is also a prestigious distance. And if you're not ready for half, then go for a 10 kilometer, and still it is not a bad distance. And if you're not ready for 10, 5 kilometer, and if you're not ready for anything, you can actually start from 400, 800 meter. There are people like Usain Bolt who runs 100 meter and they are still glad about it. So
Exactly.
there is
Yeah.
actually, the distance doesn't matter, which people don't understand. People directly want to go for the Ironman or the full marathon, and then they want to post on the social media. That is one huge factor that plays in their mind always.
Yeah.
And during a race, this is one huge thing that plays in many people's minds, that what would I post the social media? My race is not going well today.
Okay.
This is one major factor that goes through the mind during a race. What would I say to my followers? Because my race is not happening well today. Something
So
is going wrong with me. Yeah,
yeah. So as you're, as you're talking about this, I'm noticing that for those kind of people, it's not about passion. It's about proving something
exactly.
to somebody else, right?
Exactly.
So I think, the mindset of the person is very important. So just as every athlete has a coach for their sport, like people come to you and say, coach me to be a triathlete. What about having, a mental coach? How important do you think it is for people to have, like this fraternity is full of coaches, right? Now, a
Yeah.
coach who's watching this, like we have like, maybe 45 coaches here. So, so what we do as a coaching fraternity is we do any kind of coaching, but it's all mindset coaching, right? So we could coach athletes in terms of mindset. We could coach doctors. We could coach anybody, because we're
Okay.
not dealing with their craft. They could be anything. You could be a runner or you could be a nurse. We are dealing with their mindset because, like you said, your mindset is everything. I mean, we've seen so many athletes who have come out, from the turning or, on the track, and then they win and they were right last. So I think that's a lot of mental game also, right? So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand from you, how important do you think it is for today's athlete to have a strong mind and to have a coach who works on their mindset? And do people like you also work on an athlete's mindset?
Um, it is actually there are two parts to this. One is mental strength can be built in my sporting aspect, or from the way in which I have trained. Mental strength can be built if you are really ready for the race. That is, physically, if you are ready for the race, your mind is also going to be strong. You're going to be very confident after having done a lot of training for this.
Yeah.
But there is always one, and so that is one major part of your mental sharpening that is going to give you huge amount of confidence, and that is mental conditioning. But
Yes.
there is always that external factor. What happens when something goes wrong?
Yeah.
What happens when something goes wrong? And if that situation did not actually occur in your training, what would you do then?
Yeah.
So these are all points, and there are points where there are hundreds of scenarios where I cannot cover everything.
Yes, obviously. Yes.
Yeah. And in fact, if I have seen some 10 or 15 already, I would be talking about 2, 3, because I would not be able to immediately recollect all my 10, 15, but 2, 3 definitely I would give to them, and then they already missed out 5 to 10 from what I've seen. But there are also other scenarios that I have never imagined that could happen, and directly you would see on your race day. So there are a lot of situations where mental coaching is different from what I would know, and it can be a lot more of a topic, more than my reach.
Yeah.
So yes, I have actually seen a few psychologists doing this mental coaching. There is a friend of mine who does it for a few athletes. I know a person, and but then my athletes never wanted me to put them in contact with any psychologist directly. So in case they ask me, I would be very happy to suggest them to go for a mental conditioning coaching.
Yeah.
But then they always ask me on what to do.
Yeah.
Then I give them from my experience. I give them answers, and then I tell them how I deal with it, and then how it would work for them or not work for them, or if it would if they would want to try, um maybe applying whatever worked for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then what you're saying is right. I mean, there are different coaches, and then mental conditioning coaches one important aspect
Yeah.
to the sport. Yeah.
I mean, because I've been watching a lot of, podcasts with athletes, and, like Djokovic has a life coach, Nadal has a life coach, Usain Bolt used to have a life coach. A lot of NBA basketball stars have a life coach. I know that the American and the British Olympic team have, psychologists and coaches, because mental conditioning, like you said, it could actually, it could make or break, an athlete.
Yeah.
It could make or break an athlete, because you may have a really fit body, your nutrition may be top class, but if you don't have mental clarity when you need to make that decision, when you need to shift gears, if you don't have that flexibility or resilience, which is, like you alluded to, all a mental game, then it could actually make or break you in that moment. There's a question that's come in, which is a very nice question from Giridhar. He says one of the most important aspects is self belief as an
Yeah.
athlete, right? So, as a coach, how do you try and instill self belief in your athletes?
Like I said, I mean, through training, when I prepare my athlete towards the end of the race. I mean, let's say there are only 3 days to the race, and the race is like an Ironman or a half Ironman, and they have trained, and to them that distance is a huge distance. And to them, they are doing it for the first time, or maybe doing it for a huge target, like they are regularly doing it, and then they want to hit a good target. So when I prepare them in the last 2 3 days, I actually go through the training that they have done in the last few weeks,
Yeah.
and then I open it, and then I tell them, this is what you've done, this is what you've done. So this going through this sessions that they have actually done, the data that I have actually brings a huge confidence to themselves. They start believing, okay, that is a session that which was a lot tougher when they actually saw it on paper, but they did it themselves. After they did it, and then they start believing in themselves. Then when you do a huge session, like I'd give you an example where I give sessions like a long ride with a short run, and then the next day I would give a 1 hour or a 1.5 hour intense ride, and then another 1 to 1.5 hours of intense running. They would actually finish long ride today, and then tomorrow that's going to be a ride and run which are very intense ones, and the 2 days prior to that would be a long swim session also. So when I revise these sessions and then tell them, this is what you've done in so and so number of minutes or hours, and then they start believing, and then they see, I also tell them the heart rate data, and then the number of steps and everything. I give them a revision, and then that gives them a huge self belief. This is one easy way to do for me. I mean, just showing what they have done.
Yeah,
It's very
because I think sometimes as human beings we have the habit of underestimating ourselves, and
yeah,
especially when you're in a competitive sport and there's so much of
correct.
competition out there. You always sometimes feel, I mean, not always, but especially when it's coming closer to race day, you may have this kind of self doubt creep in. Am I good enough?
Always.
Yeah, yeah, I
It'll
think.
always be there. I mean, you can include anyone in that, including the winner of the championship, or the one who comes last. There
Yeah.
is always doubt in whatever we do. So when we do this kind of revision of what they do, that gives them a huge boost. And also tell them the last few races that they have done. If they are not a newcomer to the sport, then I go through the races that they have done earlier, and then I immediately open the data from that race, from those races they have done. All those things gives them a huge self belief. And also when I open the map of the terrain on my map of the race that they are doing, I tell them, this is something similar to your terrain that you've trained on. So I give them a lot of different advice based on their training, so that gives them a lot of self belief.
And also, I guess you'll know each athlete on a personal level, so you know what might work for each person, right? Because each
Yes.
person, yeah,
Yes.
Amarindran has asked a question. How are the failures of athletes handled for better mental conditioning?
How
Like,
about the what?
how are the failures? So supposing an athlete fails and whatever, the athlete is, doesn't succeed in a particular race that they thought they could have succeeded in. How does that failure be instrumental in making him stronger mentally in the future?
So there are 2 3 types of athletes I've seen when it comes to failures. There are people who feel like they want to do really well the next time, and they want to do the same race next time and do it better. Those are the athletes I always like to make them better, and that's because they know that they do not achieve a target, and they are willing to work further. But also I've seen athletes who totally quit the race, quit the sport. I've seen like they go out of touch, and they go out of touch from the sport also. So there are 2 3 types of athletes I've seen. I mean, I should be very open about it. And when a person who's willing to work more towards their goals, that is when I get really happy about. And then I tell them, these are all things that you have done, and then I go through their races. That is the race day, and then I go through their training once again, and then find out what went wrong. I discuss with them that probably this might have gone wrong, and then I ask them about their race day. When they talk about their race day, I'll tell them, okay, I would find out one by one that whether that went right or wrong, according to plan or not, if it was improvised on the last minute during the race. So these are all things that I try to talk about. Definitely failures. Yeah, I have seen many not and in endurance sports you will have 20 to 30% success. So it's not going to be always successful.
Yeah, yeah.
So achieving targets is not always possible. So you should come to a reality that only few times you will succeed, but when you succeed you will never be able to uh, um, you know you will be very happy, you will not be able to let go of it, so you will want to do more, and even if you fail you will want to do more. So this endurance sports is very addictive in that way.
Yeah. And I guess also, as you, I mean, like you said, if you quit, right? But I mean, for athletes who have that mental capacity to push to the next milestone, even if they don't, what I'm understanding from you is, even if they don't reach that next milestone, because the success is only, 20 to 30% in terms of winning, I think it's so mentally stimulating, and it's so mentally conditioning for the mind, that because they have the passion they keep going, so it's something they learn to enjoy. So failure becomes just like another thing. It's like a stepping stone. It's like, okay, so what, I didn't win, but I'm enjoying this so much, so it is
Yeah,
giving.
exactly.
Yeah, so it is giving them a certain amount of fulfillment, right? Like it's
Yeah,
given you a lot of fulfillment.
but to add to this failure and success rate, so my role I see more than anything else is to increase the success rate. That is always there in any coach's mind. So to improve the success rate of you as an athlete. So what could I do? So what I would do is look at their training, and then look at their training progress, and look at the way in which the weather is going on, the climate is going on right now in your place. I mean, there are several places where my athletes are, not only in India, outside of India also. So I keep reading about their climatic conditions and the climatic conditions of the race. I suggest them to go for a race only if it would be in their reach.
Got
So
it.
what I do is always plan my athletes' race rather than my athlete planning their own races. So most of my athletes' races, I plan it for them. I tell them do this rather than doing that. So I tell them which month of the year, or which are the months of the year they should race, depending on their training progress. Then based on that month, they bring out few races as a like an option for that they have. Then out of those 2 3 options, I tell them this is going to be this race region is going to be like this region is going to be this way. So I think this should rather be suitable to you rather than the other one. So
Got
I always plan my athletes races more than their own planning. So this actually brings a huge success rate for me. When I say 20 to 20%, 30% success rate in the number of, let's say you do 10 races, you're going to succeed in 2 3 races, but my athletes actually race only a few, but I try to bring success 90% out of it.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
because I make them only race a few. It's not like they are racing so many and then they are always succeeding. But they race a few, but they succeed. That's
Absolutely.
my role. But there are coaches I've seen where they miss this aspect. They let them plan their own race, their athletes, their own races, and then what happens is the targets don't come to the success rate.
So what I'm understanding is that you're allowing your coaches or your clients or your athletes to work in a conducive environment, which is
Yeah,
actually going to help them. Maybe they don't take
correct.
part in as many races, so you're choosing quality over quantity.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
So there's a question from a young girl who says, "How does physical and mental fatigue affect you as a coach? And what are those times when it affects you as a coach? And when it happens to you, physical and mental fatigue as a coach, do you stay away from coaching?"
Okay. Um, I'll be very honest with you. So I've never actually felt this as a job, like I told you. So when there are a few athletes of mine who always contact me like every alternative day. I get a call from that athlete or a few athletes. So there are several athletes of mine are very silent. They don't even talk. I mean, I have to ask them. And there are athletes who are moderate. I mean, they talk sometimes. They talk once a week or maybe once in 2 weeks. So actually, I am involved more. So when an athlete doesn't talk to me much, then the interest goes down. So actually, I am more interested when you also share interest in the sport. So it's a mutual thing. But there are a few athletes where it's always difficult to train them. I mean, they don't want to be trained. They just enroll by mistake. Sometimes they enroll and then they don't feel like continuing training. There is always this you would see as a coach. If you have trained a lot of people, then you would always see this. Some people enroll and then they just go out of touch. It's very difficult to get them in contact also. But yeah, that is when I get mentally tired, and sometimes I give up. I mean, because you can't do anything. I mean, this is online. You are not sitting in a classroom and then sitting next to them always. So it's online, and there are people outside of India also. Like I said, outside of Chennai, many of them outside of Chennai, and some outside of India also. So the motivation has to be 50-50. I am showing 50% interest, and the athlete has to show 50% interest. If it is not there, then there is a huge chance of failure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's an honest answer from me.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. There has to be, I mean, if the client is not willing to work, then obviously
Yeah,
you're going to get mentally tired because you're trying to push beyond a certain limit.
exactly.
So I totally get what you're saying. You've trained more than 500 athletes. So, I mean, you have like loads of experience, in this sport, of being a triathlete. But there's something that people may not know that you do, and it's called bike fitting.
Yeah.
So can you share with us, what is bike fitting, number one, and then I'll ask you the second question, which is connected to bike fitting.
Okay. So bike fitting is so these are all sports which are long distances. When we went to school, it was hardly 2 to 5 kilometers of cycling. You don't have to really be on the right fit on your cycle, right dimensions for you. So you can just cycle 2 to 5 kilometers is nothing. You just go and then come back. You don't even feel any pain. But then when I'm talking about 100 or up to 200 kilometers of cycling or longer distances, like longer than 200 kilometers of cycling, then you are not going to be comfortable on your saddle if your dimensions are not right. So what happens is there are two ways of bike fitting. One is buy the bike first and then give to me, and then you come with the bike and then I fit you on the bike the dimensions for the saddle height, the reach, and there are a lot of shoes and pedals actually attached. So your shoe doesn't actually, so it's like your shoe attaches to the pedal and then you cannot move your shoe from the pedal.
Got it.
So it's like a fixed thing. So there are a lot of adjustments I should do with the shoe and then the saddle and then the handlebar. There are a lot of things there. So this is one thing, that is you buy the bike and then come to me. But the other thing is, and the better thing is to buy the bike after coming to me. That is, you come to me first and then I tell you what to buy. So there are
Based on your assessment with the client. So you
with the
understand
client.
what the athlete, you
Correct.
basically understand the athlete and
Yes.
then you advise the athlete. I got
Yes,
it.
there are so many models of cycles available. So not all cycles would fit you.
Yeah.
So you should buy the right model, right brand. Otherwise, there will be a few that will fit you, and if you can choose out of those few rather than choosing first and then coming to me. So these are the two ways of bike fitting.
Understood. Yeah. And I think I've heard about something similar, with the Tour de France, teams,
Correct.
the different teams. And I think one of the first teams to do something like this was the British team, where they got in somebody, who does this kind of thing to adjust. It's basically, like fitting a glove like fitting a hand into a glove. You've got to have the right fit. So I think, aerodynamics, the saddle, the length, the shoulder.
So bike fit actually gives you three things. One is the comfort, and then the aerodynamics, and then the performance. So
Got it.
you should actually, it's like comfort will be all the way down and then the performance will be all the way up. So you cannot be like this. Your comfort has to be brought to a place where you are comfortable and performing well, where these two meet. If you give too much of comfort, your performance will come down.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I have to balance that as a bike fitter.
Yeah, and it fits so well, with what we do as coaches, because we need to get people out of their comfort zone. So what you're saying makes a lot of sense. When you're too comfortable, even in a sport, you're not going to push yourself, because all of us like to be comfortable. But change and records are set and records are broken only when people are pushed outside their comfort zone,
Yes,
where there's
exactly,
there's pain, there's a certain amount of mental, physical,
exactly.
emotional pain involved, right? And so
Correct.
I think, what you're doing with your athletes is you're also pushing them out of their comfort zone, by, making them think differently. What's the
Exactly.
atmosphere where you are? Is the bike the right fit for you? And I think what you're doing is really, really quite, a 360-degree approach with your athletes. There's another question that's come in from a mental agility perspective. What differences have you observed? I'm not too sure what gender differences, is that the question, Kiva? From a mental agility perspective, what differences have you observed? I'm not too sure what GEDER is. Is it gender?
Yes, I think from a gender perspective.
From a
Yes.
gender perspective. So she's asking, from a mental agility perspective, are there any differences in gender between men and women when it comes to mental agility?
Okay. So now, yeah, if you put now I can understand. Now, on the mental agility perspective, gender differences have you observed? What gender differences have you observed? Um, mm, I would rather say age plays a a bigger role rather than gender. In terms of mental agility, the older people, the older they are more calm. They are yeah, yeah. So the calmer they are, and they understand that what is going wrong, and they are willing to do better based on what went wrong. So the
So,
younger people, they don't really realize what goes wrong. Actually, they don't learn from their mistakes very easily. But the older people, they learn from their mistakes better.
and why do
So
you think the younger people are not learning from their mistakes easily? What do you think could be the reason?
I mean, it's just the maturity. I mean, maturity level
Young
goes
blood?
up as you age, the wisdom goes up, right? So it's and
Absolutely, you're right. Yeah.
yeah. So
Wisdom, yeah.
it's very basic. So for people I've seen who are mentally strong are the older people rather than the younger people, and the mind keeps playing when you're young. It's not steady, and
Mm.
suddenly you feel like quitting, and then suddenly you feel like doing well, and then this kind of ups and downs during a race. In a given race, you go up and down. You are actually going to fail. But the older people, the calmer people, they do far better. I think they have a steady performance throughout the race, like start to finish, and then they do far better. Um, I mean, when I say older people, it's like a person in the sport for some number of years. It's like
More
newcomer to the sport.
experience.
Yeah,
Okay.
need not actually be a 40-year-old person or a 50-year-old person. That's not what I mean. I'm like 35, but I've been in the sport for some long time now. So my initial few days were different from now. So
Yeah.
I've become calmer now when I compare myself with the older times. So this is like I am old to the sport now. So that is one major thing.
Yeah.
But gender difference, if you want exactly gender and only that answer from me, then I would rather say mm, uh, there are very few women in the sport right now in triathlon. It's like 20% out of 100 there will be some 20 women and 80 men. In one of the races I went, it was 10% yeah. So I hardly see women in a race. Not many are there, but there are a few women I train too. Um, in terms of mental agility, yeah, I have seen a lot of women who are very strong and steady. rather than going up and down. But also I have seen who are like not so steady. They are always going up and down. So you will always have
So do you think
both.
it is person to person? Do you think it depends upon the person's
Yes,
personality?
exactly.
Okay.
So there are people who always think about others' target rather than their own target. So I have seen women like this, I've seen men like this, and then I've seen women who are concentrated only on their own race, and a lot of men also.
Yeah.
So you cannot give exactly any answer like this gender is going to be steady and this gender is not going to be steady. So there is going to be every kind of person you see in both gender, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I
So,
cannot
so-
exactly.
yeah. So basically, what I'm getting from you is that it depends upon the person's personality and
Yeah,
how much
exactly,
drive they have.
exactly,
How much patience they have. Going back to your initial answer,
exactly. Yes.
resilience. So basically, it's a lot of mental qualities that we're looking for.
Correct.
That can align with their goal or their wish to win a certain race, right?
Correct.
I'm just wondering, you seem to be very calm, right? But like you said, like you weren't always like this. It's come with age.
Yeah.
Uh, with all your vast experience and all your accomplishments, what is the next purpose-driven milestone that you're passionate about? Whether it's as a coach, we would like to know from as a coach and as an athlete. What is that next passion-driven purpose that you have?
As an athlete, I always try to keep improving. That's a simple answer. I want to do better. I want to maybe get faster, and then I want to qualify more world championships every year. World championships. So that is one thing as an athlete. And as a coach, I want to make people faster than me, of course. That is one huge goal I always have. I want to make people who always believe that it's not possible to do a triathlon. That is, I've turned. So when I started coaching, there were 50 athletes, and 49 of them were runners. One of them was a triathlete. Now I have 33 triathletes
Wow.
out of 54 athletes right now that I have 34 or 35 triathletes, and few of them are runners. Only few of them are runners now. So I always believe that you can do a triathlon, but you have to go for the right approach. So I want to make a lot of triathletes first of all, and then I want to make those who are already triathletes. I want to make them faster than me, and then those who are already faster than me, I would like to make them an athlete in the international stage, like in the world championship regularly, and then they go all the way up.
Yeah.
So that is my huge goal, and I have actually been doing this. I mean, there is a huge amount of progress always. So I am actually going in the right direction.
Well, thank you so much for answering that, and more power to you. Betsy says, "I appreciate your excellent insights about gender and mental agility related to triathlon." So Betsy is very appreciative of your answer. Um, what is I just my last question to you, I just want to say it's been a pleasure to talk to you, and you've been so forthcoming and open with all the information, and I just can't imagine all these medals behind you. It's just wonderful to see how much you've accomplished. I've never seen so many medals before, belonging to one person. So it is quite overwhelming to see that, and I'm more power to you, and absolutely, I can't find a word to actually express how fantastic this is. My last question to you is, what do you do in terms of self coaching for yourself, to keep pushing yourself, to break new boundaries, to coach more people? You mentioned a couple of things as a coach and as an athlete that you're working towards, which is fueling you with a certain amount of passion and purpose. um, what is your self-coaching strategy mentally, and emotionally? And if you have any kind of spiritual practice that is important for you, with the work that you do. Spiritual, not religious, spiritual.
No, not exactly spiritual, but I actually did this vipassana.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, okay.
yeah, so that is one thing I always recommend to someone if they have the time. I mean, always they say I don't have 10 days in one go. But Vipassana, I did Vipassana, and then I found really useful from Vipassana. So I recommend that. And when I did it, it was It was different, and it was a different kind of a mental game that I had to play in Vipassana, right? So that was one way of coaching, mental coaching, yeah. And apart from that, how do I coach myself mentally, right?
Yeah,
That's what you
yeah,
asked.
yeah.
Apart from Vipassana, I would say, I mean, the way in which I train, right? The way in which I train actually helps me a lot. Like I told you, how I train my athletes, and then I show them my training, their training to themselves. That is one way I coach myself. See my own training for the last few, and then see how I have done, and then go back to my previous races and see what I've done from my failures, from my success, and then I find out what I should target for this race. So these are all different ways of mentally coaching myself, and then I keep revising my strategies, and what would, if there is a need, like change in the last minute, like improvising, then I improvise in the last minute, and only in the way in which it would work, or if it would be too much of a change I want. So there are a lot of things always running, and yeah, I can keep giving examples like this.
Yeah.
uh, yeah.
uh, I'm just wondering, like, like sometimes you have a bad season. Supposing you have a bad
This
season.
year is a very bad season.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, but
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, like when you have a bad season, it's really, really difficult to be consistent, and that's when
Yes.
your mental game really has to come in. So, like,
Yes.
what do you tell yourself, or how do you get through that bad season?
So this bad season this year is a bad season because I've had injuries.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've not been able to run much during my training, and running is my strongest.
Okay.
So I was swimming and cycling mostly, and I had to treat myself on the run rather than running training. So the first race I did not do well. I did not do well in the sense I did not even finish. I decided that I would quit, and then rather save my
Yeah.
energy for the next. And the second race I did was where I qualified for the World Championship, which I did really well. But then the third race, which was the World Championship 2 weeks back, I did not do well.
Okay.
When I was in Finland, the World Championship, I really did not do well, but that was not because of my injuries, but that was because of the weather.
The
Finland
cold.
weather was not just cold; it was not actually cold, but then it started hailstorm. So I was not prepared for it. I was definitely not prepared for it. None of the athletes were prepared for it, but athletes who did well actually, credits to them. But because I failed, and there are people who did really well. So I cannot say that the weather was totally bad. You have to be better. That's the actual thing. I was not good enough that day. So this season overall has been a really bad season for me. But then it's a long time I've been in the sport also. So I get mentally exhausted sometimes. So what I've done is, like, I took a 2 week break. I did not train anything. I was like 1 week in Finland. I was going on trekking, going solo, backpacking, and all that. I came back fresh, and another 1 week I was doing nothing here. I was not training. So actually, that gave me an urge to start training. I feel like, okay, I'm gaining weight now, so I would
Okay.
rather start training. So there is always this thing. You have to pause. You have to
I was
yeah,
just going to say,
exactly,
so you're basically, you're breaking the monotony, you're breaking the schedule, you're taking a break.
exactly.
So, there's something that we do in coaching, right? We pause, we reflect, and then we move forward. We
Yeah,
always kind of handhold the client, where, we help the client to pause, self-assess, reflect, and then what do you want to do? It's totally up to you. So, like you
yeah,
said, you took a break, and that's actually the insight that I was kind of looking for when I asked you the question is, what do you do different when you're consistently in a bad,
yeah,
injury is the worst for an athlete. I mean, when an athlete gets injured, there's so much of self defeat,
yeah,
questions about, can I come back, can I make a comeback, will it be better? I mean, we've all seen this in documentaries and series and stuff like that. And so, like you rightly put, that's when you have to kind of maybe shift gears, get your mind out of the game, take a break, and then you can come back into the game. So
See,
I'm
one
glad
thing which
you
is
said that.
very convenient in triathlon is, if you are injured, you can actually train two other sports. If you are running injured, then you can train cycle and swim. So
Yeah.
if your shoulders are injured, then you can run and cycle. So there is always this in triathlon where at least one of the sports is available for you, unless you have had an accident where you cannot move.
Yeah.
There are that chances also. I have had several accidents. A lot of my athletes have had accidents. They could not train at all. So these are all there. But then when I plan for my athlete as a coach, I always give them 2 weeks of break, total break, doing nothing. I
Wow.
tell them not to do anything specifically,
Yeah.
so that they feel like coming back to the sport rather than
Exactly.
continuing for a third week of break. They feel like, okay, this is enough of break, I want to start training again. That is something that works in two ways. One is you feel fresh, you come back,
Yeah.
or you feel like, no, I want to train. So it makes you like, it makes you
Wow.
better.
It gives you
So
that urge to
yes,
become better and to come
mentally
back.
you get
Absolutely.
better also.
Yes.
So that works two ways. So that I've learned from my own races. I did not recover well, and then I start training, and then I feel mentally fatigued. Then I figured, okay, this should not be the case. So I always tell my athletes that this is how you should be. You should like gain fat for first 2 weeks. You gain fat and then come back.
Yeah. It's been absolutely fascinating talking to you, Raghul. Pallavi also says, wonderful session. Thank you for all the insights. A lot of people, appreciating you and what you do, and the amount that you've achieved, and yet you're so humble and grounded. Jacqueline says, thank you for sharing your story. Learning is about sharing and comparing, being an example and a role model, and caring for others. You're a lucky person when people want to learn from you. So I echo what Jacqueline is saying. And it's been absolutely wonderful.
So you asked me about the medals, and then I thought, okay, let me
Yeah,
show you this like close up.
great.
Yeah, these are the World Championship medals. These three
Fantastic.
that you see
Yeah.
close up. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah, there are some few more around here. So
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. Wow. I think it's high time you built a beautiful showcase.
yeah, I should do that.
You should do that. I think when you're on off season next, you can take 2 weeks to build your showcase.
Yeah,
But it's been absolutely fascinating, Raghul. Thank you for giving us
thank
the
you.
time. And thank you for all that you do for athletes in India and abroad, and for your passion. All of us, our prayers are with you, and our best wishes are with you for the next World Championships for Ironman. And we look forward for you going from one milestone to another. So I'm just going to hand it over to Kiva. Kiva?
Thank you so much, Raghul. This was really inspiring, and we wish you all the very best. And I think from all of us at the coaching community, it's been wonderful to hear your perspectives through that lens of an athlete and a coach. So thank you so much for that and for taking the time out. Thank you, Avril, for hosting the webinar. It's been a pleasure. Just enjoyed the conversation that the two of you had and the engagement from the audience. A big thank you to all of you who've joined us today. As we're closing out, just two updates for everybody. One is we do have a thought leadership session tomorrow. So if any of you would like to join, it's with our facilitator, Beth, which is on building inclusive spaces. So if you are interested, you can drop an email at contact@coacharya.com and we'll send you the invite. The other is, if any of you are interested in continuing your coaching journey into level 2, we have a course coming up on the 23rd of September. It's an integrative systemic coaching course for individuals and teams. So what's special about the course is it has an L2 component and also has a team coaching component. So you can also apply for the ACTC credentialing after completing this course. So if you want to know more, you can again write to us at contact@coacharya.com. I'm going to just share a link here for all of us. Just a minute. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much again, Raghul.
Thank you very much, Avril, for hosting me, and also Kiva. Thank you very much.
You're
Thank you
most
so much.
welcome, Raghul. Take care and all the best. Thank you, guys. Good night,
Take care,
everybody.
everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.